no matter where I'm at, I'm always thinking about it. I could be on my motorcycle. I'm thinking about my businesses. I could be hiking through the Amazon. I'm thinking about, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to do? And so what I've learned is how to turn my life into my business.
Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset.
Quick disclaimer that I am not a CPA, attorney, or financial advisor. My thoughts and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for education and informational purposes only. My views are from being a successful business owner, entrepreneur, and real estate professional for over 20 years.
I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Freedom Point Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Drew McWilliams, and I will be your host. Today, I am super excited to welcome Zach Oehlman onto our show today. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me, Drew. Super excited for the conversation.
I am really, really excited. So let me give you a little bit of background on Zach and why he's on our show today and some nuggets of wisdom that he is going to add to our audience today. So Zach is a self-described farm-raised entrepreneur, an author, a lecturer, and a world traveler with some amazing pictures, I must add, on his LinkedIn page, which we'll give you access to later. Zach has spent the last 2 decades building Learn and Grow Rich, which is a dynamic and diverse platform aimed at empowering individuals to attain holistic wealth and prosperity. His mission extends beyond mere financial success. They aim to foster personal development, enhance relationships, broaden horizons, and inspire our community to contribute positively to the world. Zach, again, thank you for that, and welcome once again.
I love it. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun.
It's extremely well written. I love that bio. That's the best intro I've ever had, I think, for somebody. So, Zach, kind of unpack a little bit. What are you doing today? Kind of what your background. Give us kind of your cliff notes of your career and what you focus on these days.
Yeah, so it all started, growing up on a farm in Northwest Indiana. I wanted to be a farm kid. I loved the aspect of creating, like seeing what I did, and then my dad died when I was 12. I took over the family farm. I was like, this is it. I didn't really enjoy school at all. And then I graduated and I was like, oh man, this isn't gonna work out like I wanted. I'm gonna travel the world, help people make money. And if I'm a farmer, like I'm not gonna be able to fulfill on that. And so I picked up a book. I remember Peter Lynch, master investor. I think Fidelity was a hedge or a mutual fund guy. And I was like, oh, I learned that you could make money. Like the concept of making money in business was just so foreign to me. So I really started looking at it, and they said, yeah, go to school for business and finance and economics. I went to Indiana University, took that very serious, graduated at the top of my class in 2008. And if anyone remembers 2008, it was a horrific time to be anybody, let alone an inexperienced finance graduate. Spent 3 years searching, for that dream job, 3,500 resumes. I just didn't give up and ended up working for a real estate investor down at Chicago Board of Trade, and then finally landed a gig at this valuation firm. I had no idea what it was, but I knew it dealt with finance. So and it was the first job that paid me a salary. All the other ones, they weren't paying me. They were commission. And so I took that and I just threw myself at it, understanding high-end theoretical finance on illiquid, non-marketable assets. And it's a very niche industry. And I became a published author. I eventually worked my way up to one of the best companies in the world, got everything I could dream of, and I hated it. It was like, this is it? This is how I'm gonna spend the rest of my life? Like, this isn't fun. And so a real estate investor said, why don't you come down and meet my crew? And I went down there and I fell in love with it. And I was like, okay, here's something I could do. I don't really have any money, but you can invest in real estate with none of your own money, none of your own credit. And, I sort of found that was a half truth, as we grow into this. And I jumped into that, and then I started my own community. And then I kept pursuing my dream of, I always wanted to buy businesses and scale them and own businesses. And that's what we do today. We run a private equity company with a focus on financial services. which is my expertise, and then we help them scale, and we go for equity on those, and then we use the tax aspect to help people build wealth and mitigate the tax burden. So what we say is, make your money in business, store your wealth in the real estate. And that's how we help
Ooh,
people.
ooh, I love that line. Make your money in business and store it in real estate. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So real estate, as a lot of our listeners are pretty savvy real estate investors, what real estate niche were you in? Were you in residential, multifamily, commercial? Let's unpack
So
that a little.
I got started. My first property was residential uh, rental. And so, it took me 18 months. I was all over the board. I couldn't get focused. And then I said, okay, 4 zip codes. This is what I want. And I just nailed it down. And then I was able to buy 8 properties off the MLS, none of my own money.
Wait, can I pause you? How did you use none of your own money to buy 8 properties?
So what I did is I used private money to buy these properties, fix them up, and then I refinanced them through a long-term financing company. And so I would identify a property that like the Burr method is buy it, rehab, refinance, and repair. And so private money acquired it. I fixed it up, forced appreciation through value, refinance it off, paid off my short-term lender, and then I had long-term financing in place and then cash flow it. So uh, my first 8 properties were rentals with none of my own money.
Yeah. A lot of our audience is used to, at starting point, what we do is the same thing. We do, multifamily value add properties is how we
Oh yeah,
describe it.
that's
We
a
just
way add a couple zeros to everything I do
add
for
a couple
right. Yeah,
zeros, add a couple commas, but at the end of the
yeah,
day, you're fixing it up, value adding it, and being able to reposition it back on the market a couple years down the road. You were doing the
yeah,
same thing, just in the residential space.
yeah. Because I
So
was
how did you find private money? I mean, did you go fundraise, you know, private money to buy 8 residential properties?
so it was one of those things that growing up in the Midwest. It was like there's this conversation about money, right? And it's like you don't talk about it type of thing. And then I started hanging around all these investors, and this all they talked about was money. And
Mm,
so, I had to like sort of grow into that. And eventually I bought my first house on a credit card, believe it or not.
wow.
And so it was a $30,000 house in Sauk Village, Illinois, which is the south suburbs. And then I felt confident in the process. I could see through the process. And so then I felt actually comfortable going and talking to my colleagues about, private money. And then I was also in a community. This is the most important part. I was in a community of professionals. They were lenders, they were borrowers, they were investors, real estate investors. And so every week I would go to a meeting every Thursday and every other Saturday. And so I started meeting these people. And I actually met a mentor. He's the one that actually helped me buy my first property. So what I would do is I would help him find properties, and I would say, okay, hey Randy, what about this one? He goes, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Ooh, I like this one. And we would source them for a hedge fund. And so I got to know numbers and I got to know this process. And I'd get a small commission for finding those properties. And then eventually I found one that worked for my numbers, and he helped me buy it. He helped
Nice.
me do all the structuring. And then when I raised money for the second, third, fourth, and everyone, he would be on the phone with me. Say, hey Randy, I think I like this property. Can you help me articulate and answer questions? And so the mentorship was incredible.
I think you mentioned a couple things there. Mentorship is huge. I think also mentorship gives you education, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
mentors, no matter who it is, whether you're, one-on-one or in a community like you're talking about, if you want to learn about a subject matter, there is nothing more important than learning about it first before diving, you know, right in, head first. So I'm a big believer in that. And that's the whole reason why we have this podcast, and community as well, right? Community
Right.
is a very powerful thing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I named my company Learn and Grow Rich. I had this
Yeah.
like epiphany. I was like, I cannot make any more money unless I go learn something
Yeah.
new. And it was like, it's the process, and there's no shortcutting it.
So let's sidetrack. Let's go down that learn and grow rich, because I know you and I, before we started our recording today, we were talking about how you have this amazing ability. you truly are a world traveler. I mean, people say that, like, no, really, I am on your LinkedIn site. You are with elephants and you're like on safari, like you're doing amazing things. When I hear you talk and when I see your pictures, it's like I'm reading the 4 Hour Work Week book all
Right.
over again.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm sure you've read that before. I mean,
Oh, I mean, I mean, yeah, it was an inspiration.
how did
Absolutely.
you go from working what I would assume from your background, way over the 40, 50, 60 hours a week to now living kind of that 4 hour work week, ability? And I know you might work more than that now, but just
Yeah,
it's kind of
I
amazing to me
definitely
you've
work more
created it.
than that, but it's by
Yeah.
choice. You know,
Right.
it's like I've had one of the, there's epiphanies that I have, and you hear stuff, but when you experience it yourself, you get it. It just like you get it. And so I remember, the saying, "Enjoy the journey, not the destination." And it's like when I got my dream job, it was exciting, and then it sucked. When I quit my job, it was exciting, and then it was like it's always like, what's next? And I remember I was sitting in Dominican Republic, having achieved what I wanted, travel the world, help people, and making money. I was like, boom, here I am. And I was talking with my coach, and I was like a little downtrodden. She's like, "What's in your space?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And we talked about it. It was like, "Oh, I don't have a what's next." Right. Nothing. And so what I've learned personally is like the happiness for me, and I would argue everyone, is a product of being useful to somebody. And so like just this idea of sitting on a beach forever one day is just like I don't think anyone really enjoys it. And of course we have to figure it out ourselves, right? And so I was just not happy with it. And so what I did is I went and got a vision that would inspire me. And my vision today is empower people to have an amazing life in all aspects of their life by helping them make money in business and real estate. And so that's something that like I'm infatuated with it. And so no matter where I'm at, I'm always thinking about it. I could be on my motorcycle, I'm thinking about my businesses. I could be hiking through the Amazon, I'm thinking about, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to do? And so what I've learned is how to turn my life into my business and then document it and share it. And so everything I do is promoting my business, promoting my lifestyle. And I've just learned that. And so when I go on a motorcycle ride, it's not like I'm taking time off because my life is my work. I just throw a camera on my helmet and then I upload it, and that's it's marketing material. And then so that's I've learned how to turn my life into the proverbial business, and then I just live a life that I want by design. And so it all starts with, and this is where I see people mess up. It's like, what do you want your life to look like? Like, what do you want? I remember I paid a coach $8,000 to ask me, what do I want for 30 minutes every week for a year? And it was really hard to answer that question for the first couple of months. It was like priming the pump because that's not a question we answer, right? It's not something the average person focuses on. And so I got really good at vision setting. I got really good at answering, what do I want? And then creating a plan to get it and then executing on that plan. And I see people, they don't do that. They don't do that front end work. Typically what they do is they're very vague about the destination, and then they go take a bunch of actions that don't align with the destination. And so they're running around, and I spent a long time doing that myself. And so for me to be able to live the life I had started 12 years ago when I said, it really started when I was 16, 18, travel the world, help people make money. And how do I do that? How do I do that? What's the next thing I have to learn? What's the next thing I have to learn? What's the next thing? Then coaching, coaching, coaching. And I don't mean like coaching from a marketing operation standpoint. This stuff is incredibly important. I'm talking about, why won't you do the thing you need to do coaching? What's in the way? What's the fear from you going to make that call, from you doing the big move? What are you scared of? What's in your way? What are these blind spots? And that's the stuff that it's rocket fuel for me.
Yeah, love that. Um, you talked about real estate coaching. How do you navigate that with people? So it sounds like, you're working with, highly successful folks and you're teaching them. I know you're kind of working in the numbers. That's kind of your background. So folks that are very successful in life and might be extremely good numbers, you're now making that introduction to real estate is a good place to store it. And I loved your line earlier where business is where you make money, real estate's where you store it. How do you make that kind of transition, or how do you have that coaching education from one to the other for these folks?
Well, I started off as a student myself, and I'm still a student, and then I progressed to where I'm at, and over the years, I would help anybody. We have a community, and it's like, okay, if you got the ambition, let's go. And what I've learned is we have to treat high income earners differently than low income earners, and it's like if you're a low income earner, you have to go increase your skill set to become a high income earner, right? Because this concept of doing real estate with none of your own money and none of your own credit, it's absolutely possible, but it requires skill and experience. And the more skill and experience that you have, we call them currencies in our community: time, money, knowledge, relationships, experience, and community. The more you have of the knowing, the less money you need, right? And so I teach those people to become worth more, right? And specifically the sales and the marketing of it, right? Because if you don't have money, you're wholesaling, you're out there, jamming the fix and flip type stuff. But for the people with money that have the high income earning capacity, I tell them, I say, don't start over from ground zero in real estate and try to become a wholesaler and fix and flip. I'm like, do what you're great at. Become, magnify your high income earning capacity in your business, in your whatever your craft is. And I say, learn to take some of that over here and invest it in real estate for wealth and tax purposes. And then I'll help you find the real estate. I'll help source it. I need you to understand, because what I need you to understand what I'm explaining to you, but you don't have to know it at the level to be able to replicate it, because that's what you're paying me for. And so, in the world of economics, the specialization of labor, let me be your person. You go be great at what you're at, and then we work together to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. Let's talk more about I know you have that fractional CFO that you're very good at, right? So
Yeah.
you love the numbers, love analytics. Kind of unpack that, kind of what companies do you work best with?
Yeah, I work best with service-based businesses because I love the low risk factors of I run online businesses, and so for me, buying a bunch of asset heavy, I'm in real estate. It's funny, right? Two opposite ends of the spectrum, but like in the world of business, I look for something that I can bootstrap, meaning I've never taken outside money to start my business is outside of real estate. And so what I've done is I've learned how to make a sale, use that money to put it back in my business, make more sales, reinvest, more sales, reinvest. And so I've learned that these service-based businesses, if you can learn how to deliver the deliverable with a smile and 5-star service, people are willing to pay for it. And so I can come in and set up the systems, processes, and structure very cheaply, very inexpensively from actual dollars, high value, but low actual dollar. And so it's almost no risk on my end, and it's all upside. And so those are the type of businesses I like. And I also like working with people that, I'm very big on people, because a business is people. And so if the people aren't the right fit, meaning I don't like their attitude, they don't have a good outlook on life, they're not learning and developing themselves, right? They're not in some type of educational program or in anything like that. I really make sure that the person I partner with, and even fractional CFO or my partnership program, they're the right fit, because I got to work with them every day. And I don't, I got in this to work with people I love. And when you work with people like that, it's fun.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Zach, next big projects on your vision board. Anything out there right now?
Oh, I have so much stuff. So, our 10-year goal for our financial services private equity company is a $1 billion valuation in 10 years. And so we're on track for that. But the big projects are my Learn and Grow Rich community. And the idea is, we have a foundation down here in Colombia. We have a foundation over in Kenya. We started these as we travel. I want to teach people how to make money so they can reinvest back into their community, so they don't have to ask for money. So that's something that's near and dear to my heart. going to start a community center down here in Columbia. We have a foundation we funded for 4 years, and the next level is to build a big community center. And so that's from the, give back to the world. That's it. From the projects of business, it's my financial services firm. There's just so many people out there that need qualified bookkeepers, that need qualified tax professionals, that need tax consulting. And I've had such a bad experience myself. That's why I started this. It was like, oh my gosh, these people need to understand finance to really magnify their wealth. And so that's the main focus right now.
Love it. All right. And last question that I tend to wrap up every single show with: what are your highs, lows, and what you've learned along your career journey?
My highs are my life right now, right? I've learned that happiness is a direction, not a destination, and it can get better every day. I've accomplished my goals of traveling the world, accomplished my goals of making money and helping people. And one of my recent highs is, because there's always the next mountain, right? We're never going to get to, when you think you're at the top, there's always the next one. And so the recent win, you could call it, is settling down, like slowing down, like being able to do I call it the long thinking. And so just getting organized in our businesses, getting EOS implemented, structure, systems, processes, so that I can do those. I'm going to do like a 2-month long motorcycle ride from Alaska to South America.
Wow.
And so that I could do that, right? And so lows, I mean, I could tell you I've been panic attacks, laying on my floor, crying because I didn't know what to do. Like just the kick you in the face, punch you in the stomach type stuff that, partners stealing from me. That's one of my biggest challenges is I'm a really easygoing guy, to the point of I'm too easygoing sometimes. And I've had partners steal from me. I've been locked down of all of my software from partners. I've been, partners, oh my God, I could spend a whole show on that. And so really be mindful of who you're working with out there. And then what I've learned is I live life by principles. And 2 of the big principles that I believe, but my top 5 principles are intention and personal responsibility. I think those 2 intentions alone, if you really understand them, you can accomplish anything you want. Because if you're always asking, why am I doing this? Where am I going? And then you take personal responsibility for getting there, no, you're unstoppable, right? And then the other 3 are integrity, right? And integrity is not from right or wrong, but like for whatever the situation calls for, right? And then dream big and do the work. So those are the 5 founding principles of my companies. And I instill those in our team members. And I've learned, and so instead of having a 500-page employee manual, it's like I just teach them the principles, the vision, and show them where we're going, and then get out of their way. Pay them well and get out of their way. And that's a huge lesson.
Awesome. Zach, thank you again for joining us. And in the show notes, we're definitely going to promote your Learn and Grow Rich community. I think it's a beautiful thing. I personally am a big believer in education and helping others, not only on the real estate journey, but also at a very young age as well. So thank you for what you do and for making the world a better place, and for being on our show today.
Thanks for having me, Drew.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you for joining us on the Freedom Point podcast. If you'd like to start a conversation about your real estate journey with us, please reach out to us on LinkedIn, or you can visit our website of startingpointcapital.com. Until next time.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.